Do you have any idea about the richest countries in the world?
What about the top 10 richest countries?
But how can we know the wealth rank of a country?
For today, we will be talking about the top 10 richest countries in the world according to the International Monetary Fund, assessed by its GDP per capita at Purchasing Power Parity.
What does GDP really mean?
GDP is a number that expresses the worth of the output of a country in local currency. GDP tries to capture all the final goods and services as long as they are produced within the country, thereby assuring that the final monetary value for everything that is created within the country is represented in the GDP.
How do we calculate the GDP?
GDP is calculated over a specific period of time, usually over a year or quarter of a year. Taken together, these three concepts of GDP calculations provide systematic basis of GDP across for both time and distinct national economies.
What does GDP really measure?
Gross Domestic Product, or GDP, is a monetary measure of market values of all final goods and services produced in a time period. GDP, or nominal per capita, does not, however, reflect in the living and the inflation rates of the countries. Therefore, using the basis of GDP at purchasing power parity is arguably more useful when comparing the living standards of all nations, while nominal GDP is much more useful when comparing the national economies in the international market.
What about the International Monetary Fund? The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is an international organization headquartered in Washington, D.C. Consisting of 189 countries, its main goal is to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, and reduce poverty around the world with the help of the World Bank to provide its resources.
I know, we expect that USA is on top of the list, but no. USA is ranked 10th in the 2019 top 10 richest countries in the world. Well, this is according to the International Monetary Fund, assessed by its gross domestic product per capita at purchasing power parity. The United States has one of the world's wealthiest and most diversified economies in the world. While most nations on the list have relatively small populations, it is impressive that the world's largest economy, the United States of America, can maintain a per capita of a product at purchasing power of $62,606 US. Currently, the president of the country is Mr. Donald Trump, which made significant improvements over the country's economy. The president of the country fulfilled his campaign pledge to reduce some burdensome and of course signed a major tax reform in the year 2017. He also adopted perfectionist trade policies. The United States of America, while commonly known as US or America, is a federal district with 5 major self-governing territories with various possessions and a country of 50 states covering the vast swath of North America. It is the world's 3rd or 4th largest country according to the total land area, and it is the most populous country in the world with over 300 million people. Although services account for about 80% of GDP, the United States remains a second largest producer of manufactured goods and the leader in manufacturing, research, and development.
Major Atlantic Coast cities including New York City, the world's most populous megacities, a global finance and culture center being considered as a cultural, financial, and media capital of the world, and the capital Washington, D.C., which made major contributions with the country's overall gross domestic product. As of 2019, the New York metropolitan area is estimated to produce a gross metropolitan product of 2.0 trillion US dollars. That means if Greater New York City were a sovereign state, it would have the 12th highest GDP in the world. Where in fact, the New York City is home to the highest number of billionaires in the world.
Did you know that burgers actually originated in Germany? But this burger actually disputed in America. Burgers actually is a staple food in the United States, and you can see them everywhere, anywhere, and anytime in the area. It is undeniable that USA is the most popular country in the world. Well, most companies originating and dominating in the United States, where most of it are popular, like Google, Amazon, and Apple, base their operations.
Hello! A mountainous Central European country, home to numerous lakes, villages, and the high peaks of the Alps. Its cities contains medieval quarters. I am talking about the famous Switzerland. Switzerland is also known for its ski resorts and hiking trails. Switzerland boasts some of the world's famous inventions. They created the Velcro, the Swiss Army knife, the edible chocolate gold, and the milk chocolate that could name a few. You all know the famous Toblerone chocolate? Yes, it is a brand from Switzerland. And did you know that the mountain on the box of the Toblerone is Mount Matterhorn? Let's move on to why Switzerland is ranked 9th to the top 10 richest countries in the world, topping off United States with $66,000 GDP per capita. Besides Switzerland's most famous inventions, banking and finance are key industries that kept the country afloat. It is important to note that some of the wealthiest people and companies in the world owns a Swiss bank account. Therefore, Switzerland has excess capital to use for investment purposes. Switzerland's most well-known two cities, Zurich and Geneva, have ranked among the top 10 worldwide in terms of standards of living. A highly skilled labor force, exceptionally well-developed physical and communications infrastructure, efficient capital markets, and low corporate taxes. Well-secured property rights, including intellectual property rights, encourage entrepreneurship and productivity. Flexible labor regulations and the absence of corruption also enhance the business climate. An estimated 2,200 individuals in Switzerland are in the ultra-high net worth group with the wealth of over $50 million. The Swiss have pulled away from the pack when it comes to assets per adult, remaining on average the wealthiest citizens in the world.
Situated in the northern edge of Eastern Arabia at the tip of the Persian Gulf lies the wealthy country of Kuwait. Marabaan. Like most countries in this geographical region, which we'll discuss more about later in the video, the economy of Kuwait is structured upon its fossil fuels, and it currently has a third of the world's reserves in crude oil. Kuwait also involves itself in financial management and banking for its income. The country currently has 10% of the world's current oil reserves, and it counts for nearly half of the GDP, with 95% export revenues and government income. Combine that with a low population, this has put Kuwait at number 8 at the top richest countries in the world.
An example of Kuwait's wealth is the Kuwait Tower, which is actually a group of 3 towers in Arabian Gulf Strait in Dasmani. A symbol of economic resurgence in Kuwait, the towers were built a year after Kuwait's independence from England. A combination of traditional Islamic design and modern architecture The towers are often compared to slender minarets of the mosques of Samarkand and Bukhara. The main tower has a main spire which houses some cafes, restaurants, and reception halls, while the rotating viewing spire offers a spectacular bird's eye view of the city. The second tower has a water reservoir, while the third one has equipment to supply power to the other two towers as well as some parts of Kuwait. Kuwait is rewarded with a magnificent coastline. Azure waters and white sand, the scenic beauty is eternal. Relaxed by the waters, sunbathe, stroll around enjoying the cool sea breeze or get moving with the various water sports. Did I say more? Angkut is one of the best beaches in Kuwait. Although crowded, since this is a local favorite as well, the serenity of the sands and tranquility of the blue waters is beckoning.
That is all for the country of Kuwait. Shukran lakum.
A home for 14 billionaires and a second home for the overseas Filipino workers abroad comprising 679,819 people. As-salaam, a country where the ATM is dispensed by gold bars and the police fleet is not just using ordinary cars and motorcycles but instead using a luxurious cars such as Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Bentley. Does it sound quite impossible? Well guys, it is true. This country is the United Arab Emirates, ranked 7 in the world's richest country according to GDP per capita at Purchasing Power Parity. UAE is the country that you may have heard about before, with the skyscrapers of Dubai and the oil wealth of Abu Dhabi. With a gross domestic product of 107.2 billion US dollars, UAE boosts as the second largest economy under the Arab world. Approximately 1/3 of GDP is from oil revenue and hydrocarbon sector. But aside from the energy sectors, the contributors of UAE economy are
real estate around 20%, retail 12%, tourism 10%. It's no wonder when you consider the country's staggering skyscrapers like Burj Khalifa as well as Dubai Mall, which is the biggest shopping mall in the world. Dubai is a huge destination for the tourists. On the top of that, there's been a massive increase in charges for government services, makes up 74% of the total budget.
The English name Norway comes from the Old English word Norweg, mentioned in 180 meaning northern way or way leading to the north, which is how to Anglo-Saxon referred to the coastline of Atlantic Northway. Similar to scientific consensus about the origin of Norwegian language name. A country of Northern Europe in the western part of the Scandinavian peninsula. Norway is influenced by an extraordinary level of terrain and climate in the region. About 10,000 BC, following the collapse of the Great Inland Ice Sheets, the earliest settler moved north into what is now the territory. The word Norway is called Norse.
Norway is one of the world's most prosperous countries, and the oil and gas production account for 20% of its economy. Other important sectors include hydropower, fish, forests, and minerals. State revenues from petroleum are disappointed in the world's largest sovereign wealth fund. Another major reason why Norway is so wealthy is petroleum. It has received significant sums of wealth from petroleum exports after 1970. It also has one of the largest reserves of seafood, hydropower, lumber, mineral, natural gas, and fresh water. Norwegians enjoy the parallel level of economic wealth.
Norway is ranked 6th in the top 10 richest countries in the world, according to GDP per capita at Purchasing Power Parity. Continuing the theme of oil-based economies, Brunei is ahead of its game with a large GDP per capita and an abundance of natural resources in the country. Brunei is a tiny sultanate country in the island of Borneo and it ranks 5th on our list. It is among the wealthiest countries with a per capita GDP and PPP of over $80,000 each year. The name Brunei Darussalam means abode of peace, which is mostly true given the country's higher standards of living and longer life expectancy than its Southeast Asian neighbors.
Brunei is considered to be the most observant Islamic nation in Southeast Asia. The majority of the country's wealth comes from the oil and gas industries. However, wealth inequality is widespread here, and the majority of the population does not make $80,000 per year in reality. With a population less than 500,000 people, its socialist society is arguably the closest any nation has gotten to a total welfare state. The Sultan's government pays for education, healthcare, and most of other living expenses of its citizens, financed through Brunei's massive oil and natural gas belt, thus the nickname Shelfware. The Sultan is one of the richest men in the world and he flaunts his wealth shamelessly. The small nation on Borneo Island, home to around 430,000 people, draw its wealth from exports of oil and natural gas. Although much of the population lives in poverty, the Sultan, however, does not. His immense fortune is said to increase by $147 every second thanks to those valuable oil assets. Despite its high standards of living, the country will likely face serious difficulties when the oil begins to run out, as Brunei embodies the definition of a mono-economy, with oil and natural gas making up a full 99% of its exports.
And to sumuha, puntok Brunei, the 5th richest country in the world.
Ireland is an island nation on the westernmost edge of Europe. It is the continent's second largest island after Great Britain. Ireland is known for its wide expanses of lush and green fields. In fact, its nickname is the Emerald Isle. The economy of the Republic of Ireland is primarily a knowledge economy. Ireland is an open economy and ranked first for high-value foreign direct investment flows. Ireland ranked out of 187 in the IMF rank table and 6 out of 175 in the World Bank ranking. So do you want to know the next few more countries on our list? Better keep watching.
Ni hao, salamat Bagi. Hello? I'm quite sure that you all know the famous Merlion and the magnificent state-of-the-art Changi Airport. Well guys, welcome to Singapore. Singapore is known for its official mascot, Merlion, depicted as a mythical creature with lion's head and mermaid's tail. It is used as symbolic nature to Singapore's national personification. Do you want to experience a luxurious and 5-star hotel vibes when you're heading on a trip? Well, Changi Airport is the best for you. With butterfly garden, movie theater, scenic views, swimming pool with artificial waterfalls, which makes the ambience more scenic on passengers' viewpoint, I'm sure that you'll all be greatly satisfied. Changi Airport is considered as the best on Southeast Asia and even worldwide, promoting more tourists to visit their nation. But have you ever wondered how is it possible for the Singaporean government to build such a great airport and high-priced infrastructure? Considering they are lacking on the resources and landmass, having only 279.6 square miles. If you guys want to know why, better to keep focus and lend your full attention on me. Well, the reason why Singapore is capable on doing massive economic framework is its GDP per capita.
With a total population of 5,850,342 people, Singapore's GDP per capita reached $65,233 or 91,326.2 Singaporean dollars last December 2019. Exports, particularly in machinery and equipment, electronics and telecommunications, pharmaceuticals, refined petroleum products provide the main source of revenue for the economy, which allows it to purchase natural resources and raw goods which it lacks. Singapore's economy rely on the extended concept of intermediary trade to entrepot trade by purchasing raw goods and refining them for export. State-owned enterprises play a substantial role in Singapore's economy. Sovereign wealth fund holdings holds majority stakes in several of the nation's largest companies such as Singapore Airlines, Singtel, SC Engineering and Media Corporation. The Singaporean economy is a major foreign direct investment outflow financier in the world. Singapore has also benefited from the inward flow of FDI from global investors and institutions due to its highly attractive investment and a stable political environment. Moreover, Singapore also has a strategic port which makes it more competitive compared to other countries. The Port of Singapore is the second busiest in the world cargo tonnage, which contributes a lot to Singapore's GDP per capita.
Singapore's government has a vision to preserve its international standing and to grow its economic prosperity for the next 21st century. And that's it for Singapore being third on the world's richest country according to GDP per capita at Purchasing Power Parity.
Luxembourg is the second richest country in the world. Luxembourg is a small European country surrounded by Belgium, France, Germany. Luxembourg City is famed for its fortified medieval old town perched on sheer cliffs. Luxembourg prosperity was primarily based on steel manufacturing. With the decline of that industry, Luxembourg diversified and is now best known for its status as Europe's most powerful investment management center. Did you know that?
From the different architectural marvels, beaches, fine cuisine that are considered as the world's best, to the numerous supercars that roam around the streets, Alan Wasalan. Hello and welcome to the world's richest country. This is Qatar. Qatar is the richest country with a per capita of $132,890. Before World War II, Qatar was one of the poorest and smallest nations, and it depends its revenue from fishing and birding. But as oil reserves were developed and discovered in the 1940s, the country and its high per capita income became more and more attractive to its expatriates.
Qatar is the richest country in the world with a per capita GDP of $132,890. Qatar has a well-developed oil exploration industry where the petroleum industry accounts for 70% of its government revenue, 60% of its GDP, and 85% of its export earnings. Although the size of Qatar's GDP is barely within the top 50 largest in the world, the country's relatively low population of 2 million results in a large GDP per capita, where most residents of the country enjoy a very high standard of living. Qatar is home to approximately 2.7 million residents, and that number includes less than 700,000 women. The extreme disparity is primarily due to the fact that Qatar, like many other countries in the region, attracted many male migrant workers from South Asia, following its bloom in the 1970s. In addition, foreign migrant workers amount to about 88% of the total population. There are way more men than women and way more foreigners than Qatar-born residents.
Today, Qatar is one of the world's largest oil reserves and of natural gas and is the richest country in the world.
So that is the top 10 richest of this